I'm Brian V, and this is Why We Work. Today, I have the great pleasure of speaking with Chad Lindsay. Chad is a writer, director, producer, and filmmaker. He's actually an overall pretty talented guy who has a heart for community. And today, I want to find out from Chad how important is our involvement in community, and maybe what are some things that we can do to be involved. Join me in my conversation today with Chad Lindsay. I'm Brian V, and this is Why We Work. Today, I have the great pleasure of speaking with Chad Lindsay. Good day, fine sir.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing wonderfully well. Thank you, Chad, for coming on here. We just had a brief conversation just before this. I realized you are the brother of Ryan Lindsay. I really didn't know that until this moment. And if you're anything like your brother, I think you're probably a pretty swell guy.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
And as I said, Ryan, I'm coming for you. It'd be interesting to find out. Will you be able to do something for me, Chad? And that is
Sure.
say what the industry is that you're in, what you're doing, and what you're up to these days.
Sure. For my day-to-day job, my Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 job, I work in the agricultural sector. I work in the dairy and industrial industry. So I work for a company called ATL Dairy Automation. And this actually, every time I say it, it's kind of a surprise to me, but the technology has moved forward in all industries, and the dairy industry is one that it has also embraced technology to the point where the company I work for, we sell automated or robotic farming equipment. So we sell machines, robots that actually milk cows.
Makes a farmer's job a little bit easier.
Yeah, quite a bit. So we've got robots that milk cows, robots that feed cows, robots that put bedding and shavings in the stalls, robots that mix food and nutrition for the animals. So it's a high tech industry, which is actually pretty cool.
Maybe we'll get into that. I know also that you have Sackville.Live and you're also making some films, writing, producing, but we'll get into this soon enough. What was your very first job, Chad? What was the very first thing that got you out of the house making a dollar? It might have been more volunteer, it might have been your own business.
Yeah, I think the first job. Well, there's two. I guess if you count, I was the Mail Star paperboy when I was 11. So every day after school, get the papers, deliver the papers, collect the money, which was all cash in those days. A gentleman used to come to the house and collect the money, and then I owed him a certain amount of money, and whatever was left over, I got to keep. So that was my first experience with working for money. And then my first job where I actually got a paycheck and a T4 would have been McDonald's in Lower Sackville.
Nice. Sackville Drive. Why did you get the Mail Star job or even the McDonald's job? What was this, a family kind of influence, or was this you trying to spread your wings?
No, there was a friend of mine that lived over on Nordic, and he was a paper boy. He was a year older than me, and I saw all that money he was rolling around with. And I was like, "Hey, where'd you get all that money?" And he delivered the Mail Star. I said, "How do I get a job there?" He gave me the telephone number. I called up and said I wanted to be a paper boy, and ended up being the paper boy on Prince Street, the street that I grew up on.
As you went into middle school and high school, was there a particular job that you kind of stuck to? Was there anything that you did, maybe family related, knowing that your family does have a business? Was there something that you did that kind of took prominence in your work?
Uh, Basically, during the school year when I was in middle school and high school, I always concentrated on the school work, and I worked in the summer. And my dad owns a construction company, so my summers, as soon as school was out, I worked full time throughout the summer, just working, getting paid every Friday in those days, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. I was getting paid like an adult when I was 16, 17 years old, so that was exciting. That was really exciting because I was earning adult money as a teenager, and it felt pretty good.
Chad, knowing that just talked about it a moment ago that you went to school with Paul Hollingsworth at SMU,
Yes.
what was your the your mind molding into for your future and your career from high school? What were you thinking that you wanted to be, or what did you want to do?
It, I have to say it wasn't. I think that what I'm doing now as a passion, which is, making films and very low budget television programs. That's what I wanted to do in high school.
Mm-hmm.
But I really felt at the time there was a lot of pressure, and this sounds horrible, but there was a lot of people in my life in the school system that said, Chad, you're very smart. You should go into sciences. You should take science, math, and you should take. So I did. I took science, math. I took honors biology. I took chemistry. I took physics. I took all of these heavy academic courses because
That's what
you
smart
know
people did.
that's what smart people were supposed to do. And I'm not saying I'm a smart person,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
what I found was there was just a really strong push, and in perhaps the defense of guidance counselors and
Mm-hmm.
teachers
Mm-hmm.
and people in there that were really looking out for my best interest, really said, well, if you have all of those things, your options will be open. So you could get your degrees in science, and then you could try doing film and television, and if you fail, you'll always have science to fall back on. So it's kind of a strange thing. And I see now television and advertisements for like trades, take the trades. And I think in the late 80s, I think a lot of that was something that I don't, I think looked down upon is too
Mm-hmm.
strong of a term, but that's just what comes to mind. It was just something like, okay, well, you don't need to do that, Chad. You need to, you take your science and chemistry and math, and that's what I did. And I don't know if that was necessarily the best course, because I ended up going to university and doing very, very poorly. And that was just because I think of my disinterest with those subjects. And I did poorly because I didn't attend classes a lot.
Yep, that happens. As you were nearing graduation, were you kind of defining what it was that you were going to do, or did you still not know and then jump into different
Didn't know.
careers before
I didn't
doing what
know.
you do now? Yeah.
I really didn't know. I was very nervous as well. I remember at that time there was kind of like, okay, you're going into grade 11, you have to pick all your courses, and you have to be smart, because the courses you take in grade 11 are going to determine the courses you can take in grade 12, and the courses you take in grade 12 are going to determine what you can take at university, and you don't want to do the wrong thing. So there
No
was there
pressure.
was there was a tremendous amount of pressure, and I'm like, I'm 15 years old. I like staying up late and watching
Uh,
Saturday Night Live and Three's Company in the middle of the night while my parents slept.
I want to
um,
ride my bicycle.
yeah, that's what I wanted to do. So I was accepted to Nova Scotia Teachers College. And then back when we had a Nova Scotia Teachers College, I was accepted to go there, and then just kind of got nervous and flaked out and decided not to go. Um, I think I may have been a good teacher had I had followed through with it.
Mm.
But again, it was just kind of one of those things where um I felt at that age I was almost in a state of, there's that term analysis paralysis, where you've got so many things in front of you that you're afraid to make the wrong decision, so you make no decision.
Yeah.
And I really felt that that kind of described me as a teen in my 16, 17, and 18 years old.
When did you start venturing into your creative side in terms of with Sackville.Live, or your ideas of getting behind a camera or in front of a camera versus the other job that you're doing now with the, what is it called?
Oh, the
ATL?
ATL dairy. Um, for me, it was kind of strange because it was the end of 2017, where I was just kind of thinking about, things and career and jobs and work. And I was thinking, what would be what would be the job that I would love to wake up in the morning and be super excited to do. What would that look like? And I just closed my eyes and I thought about it. And this is going to sound ridiculous, but there was a movie that came out in 1989 called UHF with Weird Al Yankovic,
Hmm.
where he plays a gentleman that runs a cable television station, very much like the old Shaw cable that we had on Sackville.Live. And he goes to work every day and he creates funny shows. And I was like, that would be a blast. And then it
Hmm.
got me thinking about, what is happening with media today and what is happening with our news. And when we were in high school at that age, you could turn on that channel 10, and someone who lived in your community would be on the television talking about what was happening in the community. And whether it wasn't something that I wanted to do from a financial standpoint, I said, well, why can't I do that with the internet? Why can't I make videos about what's going on in the community? And why can't I do things that are silly, or funny, or sometimes serious, and talk about the history of the community or talk about leaders in the community? And I said, you know what, that would be a lot of fun, and I would probably have a lot of passion for it. So I started up the channel telling things about Sackville in the areas of news, sports, entertainment, and history.
Speaking of community, Chad, where does your desire, your love, your appreciation for community come from? And can you speak about that and how important it is for other people in whatever community you're in to be involved?
I think I have a pretty solid, like, from people that I speak with, a lot of people will typically comment on my memory. They'll say, wow, I can't believe you remember this thing that we did when we were kids. So
Mhm.
I think that I think that my memory triggers a lot of really good stories and feelings about growing up in this community. And also on my mother's side, our family came to Sackville in the early 1800s. So there's a lot of family history right here in Sackville. And I think that being involved in things like Boy Scouts, being involved in like Sakawa Canoe Club and baseball and different community organizations. Like when I was in scouting, there was always things that, as a scout, you did things for your community. You learned about either your country or the queen, or you were raising money for different events or raising money for churches, or you were doing different sales. You were, in addition to doing camping and learning things. I think one of the things that scouting definitely teaches is the fact that you have a role in the community, and you can, despite the fact that, when you're in scouting, you're 11 or 12 years old, that you can take an active role in your community and you can actually make a difference, even as a child. So that's probably where a lot of that came from, I would say.
Yeah, it's really important. And me being here in South Korea, I miss Sackville more and more. Like even
Mm.
looking up some of the songs that you've written that are on
Oh, yes.
your channel, the idea of just some of those things that I miss. And I know that anyone else in any other community, if they take a step out their front door and look around, they can find something to be a part of that they can be proud of. And it's just something that helps your small community. And it may help with things like depression, loneliness, those sorts of things that
Mhm.
people take for granted and think they're going to find them some other way.
Yeah, I definitely think you are right on the money. I think that the everything these days is that, that term, the double-edged sword. And I think that in many ways, things like the internet and the fact that anybody can create content, anybody can create any content, whether you're just typing something into social media, that's content. But you can get caught up, you can really get caught up and get angry and depressed. And I even find myself sometimes, like, I've got a pretty good life, but all of a sudden I see everybody puts their highlights up on social media, everybody puts up their good things, and you're like, hey, how'd that guy afford that new kitchen? Or
Mhm.
there's that element of jealousy that can kind of creep up into your life, where you're looking at only the best moments of people's lives and not realizing that, that there's other things going on. And you do have, it is very tempting to fall into that way of thinking. So you do have the ability to create content, maybe do your best, and I'm guilty of not doing it all the time, but maybe do
Mm-hmm.
your best to put the content out there that maybe just puts a smile on somebody's face, or somebody like me who's like an idiot dressed up and singing a song. I, you just try to make people have a little bit of a better day than maybe they would have without it. So
Well, I appreciate you saying this because even the last couple of days for me, like I mentioned, being here, it's kind of tough. But where you are, it's kind of tough too. And we all wake up, and it's not easy to put your feet on the ground, to go to work, and to
no.
do it again. And then you see the highlights on a. I mean, I don't think Facebook is doing as good of a job as it used to do with creating envy in me, because it used to have more people I knew, but now it's just like advertisements. So I kind of push through them,
Yeah.
but I know they're out there. Whether you look at a Twitter, you look at an
Yeah.
Instagram, and everyone puts their best foot forward. In reality, most of our back feet or our foot is stepped in something that it seems near impossible to get out of. So I appreciate you saying that it's tough for you too, right? The envy, the jealousy,
Yeah.
all of that. And it's so easy to get into. But I think coming back to community is we're
Mm.
being involved. You had mentioned your brother earlier of getting involved with hockey. So if you have kids and doing some sort of things that get you out of the
Mhm.
house, forces you out, it gets you past that little stumbling block that sometimes people hide behind and get to feel comfortable
Mhm.
behind, and thinking, oh, well, I'll just sit here with my misery and my little teddy bear and feel
Yeah.
sorry for myself. But being forced to get out and doing something and creating content and all of those things that you do and other people do, that we see, and we can appreciate it knowing that we're all going through similar struggles.
Yeah, I think that's like one thing that I wasn't brave enough to I wasn't brave enough to do it, but I was gonna create a series of social media posts, like just showcasing real life as opposed to like people putting their highlights. So it was gonna be just pictures of me getting out of the shower with my big gut, things that I'm not proud of, or things that I try to hide. I didn't have the courage to actually do it. But that's the thing, just kind of like flying in the face of all of the positive posts that people put. And but yeah, I probably will never do it, but it was something that certainly crossed my mind to just kind of showcase what real life is versus that facade of success on social media.
What is your processes or processes that you go through, whether it's with Sackville.Live, with the filmmaking that you're doing with the other series, or even with working in the dairy industry? What is some of the processes, even difficulties that you're going through there?
I think that the with the day to day, with work, with what's happening in the world, there's a lot of, like, because I work in sales and marketing. So when when you're in a world where things are changing day to day, and there's a certain level of uncertainty, I think would be a good word to describe it. Um, a lot of people may not be ready to make large financial commitments because they're not necessarily sure what the future will hold. That's my day to day working in sales and marketing. When it comes to making decisions, like right now, I'm doing a show about professional wrestling, and basically the challenges you face there are, you know, how can we do this and make it
Mm-hmm.
look incredibly fun and exciting?
Mm-hmm.
So that's just kind of my passion. That just is a lot better. And then when it comes to Sackville.Live, I think I always just ask the question: is this for the betterment of the community? I do get a lot of people that send me, not a lot of people. I will get messages from people who want me, because I don't allow people to come to the page and create posts just
Mm-hmm.
because I want to keep it clean from
Mm-hmm.
spam. And but I do get people messages at me saying, I went to this particular business in Sackville and they were really rude, and I want to tell everybody, please tell everybody not to go to this business. And I typically say, well, I didn't create the page
Dump on
to
them.
yeah to hinder businesses in Sackville. And I can understand, because it happens to me too. Like, you go somewhere and you're frustrated and you want to take it out and you want to tell everybody. But I typically and politely say, I can't do that. I'm not going to do that. There was a on Tillock Drive in Lower Sackville
Mm-hmm.
for 20 years. A family would take lanterns and light both sides of the street. It was part of their church, and they lit the street, and it looked beautiful. And then one year there was a person in the neighborhood that didn't like it anymore and called the fire department. And the fire department came and had to put out all the candles and say, you can't do this anymore. And people were understandably very, very upset. And I made a video about it, and it got like 30,000 views. But a lot of the comments were getting mad, and then people started posting, it was this person who lives at this address, let's go. And I was like, no, no, no,
Their
no, no, no,
own fire.
no,
Let's get them.
no.
Like, oh
Yeah,
no.
it's like, hey, wait, let's just not lose sight of the fact that this was a church making Christmas lanterns. Like, let's not turn this into something that flies in the face of what we were trying to achieve with this. So I think that that's part of it. I think that, when you said earlier, people can be angry, people can be depressed. And, if you can try your best, because nobody in the world is perfect, you just try your best to, I think, do the right thing or the smart thing, whenever you're putting stuff out there. Is it going to help people? And, you just do your best to ask those questions, and then put the content out and see what happens.
Knowing you have definitely you have skills in that you're in marketing and sales, that takes skills that are beyond me. The ability to sell a product, to accept a no, to get up, keep doing it again. But is there any other skills, especially knowing that you kind of got into filming and that a little bit later, or took it more serious? Is there some skill that you had to define and develop, and even that you're still trying to perfect now for people who are thinking of getting into the industry?
I was incredibly shy.
Mm-hmm.
I was incredibly shy. Like, sometimes I remember a moment, she ended up being one of my friends, but I was a teenager, like 13 or 14, and a girl came up to me and started talking to me, and I just stood there and I stared at her. Like, I just stared. Like, she was like, are you listening to me? And I was so nervous to say the wrong thing. And then in my mind, I was like, hey, is she just messing with me? She's not really talking to me because she wants to talk to me. She's just trying to trick me. So I was painfully shy when I was in that, 13, 14, 15 years old. So I would say that the biggest thing that I had to overcome was shyness. And then the second thing I had to overcome was, and it's still one of my challenges, is don't I don't want to do things where it would create a situation where people would like dislike me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that held me back from creating content that I wanted to create, because I was afraid that people would laugh at me or think I was stupid. And like, the first real video that I made was the video, the Cobequid Road video. I had shot it, I had sang it, I had edited it, and I had hit it, and I was sitting there with my finger on post button, and I couldn't do it. I was like, this is so stupid. This is ridiculous. I'm walking around with my wife's guitar, pretending I'm playing the guitar.
It's great
And I
too.
was
You're
like,
like,
everyone's going to think I'm an idiot.
oh.
And anyway, so I was like, you know what? Yeah, fine. And I put it up there, and, it was well received, but, there was that fear that, everyone's going to laugh at me. And I'm like, well, that's the point, Chad. Like, the point is, you wanted people to, laugh and, think about, all the different, parts of the community in the 70s and 80s, and share it out, and give people something to laugh with or at, and I'm at a point now where I don't necessarily care if people laugh at me or with me. But for the first little while, it was certainly something that hindered me, I would say, for sure.
Having similar, I went where I'm sorry, when I went to university, I had to present, and I remember being so fearful. I don't remember in high school having to present or getting up so much. I think maybe it's something they didn't
Mm.
do, or I just don't remember. But getting up there, I was afraid, so afraid. My knees were shaking. I looked at my teacher, my professor, said, I'm so scared. She said, keep talking, don't talk to me. And then even with this coming on here in the last year, like, oh, doing some lives and stuff. Do you remember your first big live, or I don't know if it was that video, but the first one that you
No.
did and getting over that?
Yes, it's still on my channel. It's one of my first videos that I did. There was a thing. It's like, at the Legion, it's a costume party tonight, and I said, okay, I'm going to go with my phone and I'm going to live stream it. So I brought my camera gear and I brought my lights, and I walked in, and it was a costume party, but it was all I figured because I was at the Legion, it would be like, adults and
Mhm.
drinking and dancing, but it was a bunch of little kids. And I walked in with all this camera gear, and people didn't know the channel at that time. And they were like, hey, who the hell are you? And why are you filming these kids? And I was like, I'm not filming kids. Right. So I, I walked out into the lobby, and I was like, I'm just going home. I'm going home.
Yeah,
Forget this. And then I was like, no, no, no. I said I was going to do it. I'm going
on a
to do it.
mission.
So
Yeah.
I took my phone out and I filmed it. I was like, hi, I'm at the Legion and it's really awesome down here. And I keep looking over my shoulder because people are looking at me wondering who I am. So I was like, yeah, come down to the Legion. There's a fun costume party. And then I hang up. But I said, you know what? I'm going to leave that stupid video up there just as, because like I went there and I was about to live stream and I almost left without doing it. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this, and just I would much rather have it completed and awful than walk away and never do it. So I just felt that even if it was horrible, the fact that I actually went through with it would be much better. So that was my first video, and now I mean I think I've got over 2 million views on all my videos. But I mean if I had of just bailed in that moment, which is
Mhm.
all I wanted to do, like my body was just like, get out of here, like everybody's looking at you, they think you're a weirdo. I never would have done it. So I'm glad that I stuck it out and made the stupid video, and I left it up. So
Where are you now in your feeling of when you are about to shoot something versus at that point? Is it
oh
is still, are you
no,
still nervous? Is it that sort of thing,
no,
or have you've gained some confidence?
no, I feel great now. I feel great and I feel confident, and I don't have those feelings. And it's funny because when I go somewhere and I'm like, setting up the cameras, I was like, okay, are you guys ready? Okay, you come over here. Okay, all right, ready, 3 2 1. Hey everybody, it's Chad with Sackville.Live, and I'm here with, and it just
Huge,
it
night and day.
but yeah, and but it took
Mhm.
those really awkward ones, and it took failing. And I think that whether you're talking about video, I really think that's kind of the crucible of learning and growing. And it's very much the same thing with me going out to visit farmers. Farmers live where they work,
Mhm.
and many of the farmers, you go there and they're used to salespeople coming into their yards and their homes, and you show up, and oftentimes they're like, yeah, I don't, just leave, I don't need you to come around here, just go. I don't they're not being rude, they're just dismissing you. And then you go back again and they're like, oh, you again, yeah, yeah, I don't need anything, I'm good, I'm good. And by the time you show up on your fourth or fifth visit, it's like, oh, hey, Chad, how's it going? Hey, come on in.
Mhm.
You want some coffee? And I think it's almost like a trial of, I'm going to tell this person to go away and see if they keep coming back,
Mhm.
just to see if they're serious about doing this type of work with me. And it was very frustrating for me from the sales side, because I'm just like, oh, these guys just tell me to leave. And my boss is like, yeah, yeah, well, that's your first time out there. He doesn't know who you are. Why would he, why would he even trust you? So now I'm at the point where many of these farmers I would consider friends, and have a very close relationship with them. And now it's a relationship, I think, of trust. And I just say that to compare it to the video. It's just, just be prepared to go through and fail over and over again, because every time you do fail, you're just getting closer to that person to person relationship that you're trying to build. And I
I,
still have some who tell me to go away, but
I
I cut you off.
interviewed,
I'm sorry.
no, it's okay. It's a good point. And I interviewed another guy down in the valley who's in sales as well. And there's something you probably understand this, but he is actually from California, where he left the Maritimes to go to California, give sales a try there, and then came back. And it's a huge market where he was, some city in California, and
Mm.
he realized that he feels more at home here or there in the Maritimes, and that community comes up again, because you're going to get a no, but there's only so many people you can go to, so you have to go back to
Yeah.
these people, and your character and all of that has to play a part, versus a big city where you get a no, okay, fine, whatever to you, and I'm going to go to somebody else. So I'm sure
Mm.
you have this integrity, this built-in love for community, that while hard, you mentioned a little bit ago, you're not always putting the best foot forward. It's difficult, but to know that you're a person of integrity, that you're going to come up to someone, you're going to be kind, you're going to be nice. One, you have to, if you want to keep in the business, but two,
Yeah.
it gives you a better appreciation for the people that you're working with or working alongside with or trying to get a business from.
Yeah, I think that's definitely part of it. And then some of the people that are customers, the farmers, they see some of the videos that I make on Sackville.Live. So sometimes I show up at the farm and they're like, "Oh, here comes Caboquid Road," and they're like, "Oh, give that man a guitar," and they tease me. But I mean, like
It's all in good fun.
it's the good fun teasing that I get. So yeah, it's one of the things that I think was the best thing that I did when I first started. So this would have been a few years ago. I was supposed to just deliver some paperwork to a particular farmer. Like, take this up to this man's farm. And I walked around and the farmer wasn't there and I wasn't paying attention. And there was a gutter in the barn filled with manure. And I fell in. I fell in the gutter and I dropped the papers in the manure and I was covered. And I came out and I was like, man, I was mad. And I walked out and I just had a brand new company car, pure white company car. And I was like, well, I can't get in the car covered in manure. So I stripped down into my underwear, threw all my clothes in the trunk, and I started driving through the country. And I was looking for a place to buy clothes in the middle of I was coming from Muscatatuck back to Shubenacadie, and I was trying to find a place to buy clothes, and I couldn't find a place. And then there was a used clothes, like a Frenchies
Frenchies.
type
I was
store,
gonna say
um,
Frenchies.
uh, called All Good Things. And I called up, and I was like, "Hey, how you doing?
You
Do you
do
sell
window
men's
service.
clothes in there?" And she's like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." I was like, "Well, listen, I need some pants and this." And she's like, "Well, come in." I said, I have to be honest with you. I said, I'm not a country person. I just started a job where I'm dealing with farmers. I fell into a cross gutter filled with manure, and I'm sitting in your parking lot in my underwear." And the lady on the phone says, "Oh, I've got to see this." And she hangs up and she comes running outside. She sticks her head in the window and she's like, "You really are wearing any clothes?" And I'm like, "Yeah, can
Funny.
you get me some clothes, please?" So she got me some clothes. And then I changed and I live streamed a video to the
Yeah,
business page. And I said,
nice.
"I'm Chad. I'm the new guy. I don't know anything about farming." I said, "I just fell in a cross gutter filled with manure. I drove around the country in my underwear looking for a place to buy clothes. And the girl from the shop was there. I said, she sold me some clothes." And I told this story.
Nice.
And the story was probably the best thing I could do, even though it was a very embarrassing story to
Yep.
me. I was like, I'm gonna tell that this is the truth. This is me. I'm gonna come to your farm and I don't know anything about farming yet. I'm brand new,
Mhm.
and this is an embarrassing thing that happened to me. But the real funny thing is, all over Atlantic Canada, I would go to a farm the first time and I'd never met anybody. And there'd be a farmer who's like going, "Hey, you're that guy that fell in the shit. And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, come on over here. Tell me, how did that happen?
That's funny.
And honestly, it was probably one of the best kind of warm openings to
Hmm.
sales that I ever
Hmm.
could have gotten, because everywhere I went, people was like, hey, there's Chad, there's that guy. And even though I was kind of like, you know, chumping on myself a little bit, they're like, hey, there's the guy that's not from the country, that, you know, that doesn't know anything about farming. It opened up tremendous number of conversations, and it was overall, it was a very good thing. The fact that I made a video about explaining how embarrassed I was, it really opened the door to, you know, hundreds of conversations all over Atlantic Canada with these farmers.
You've given some tidbits. Sometimes I almost say timbits, but
Yes,
tidbits
yeah,
on some
I'd like to give Timbits too.
to, for people who are getting into work, knowing that you worked for the Mail Star or the newspaper when you were young, even in McDonald's, starting off and changing or uncertain of your career. Do you have any advice for people who are just starting off one way or the other?
Wow. I'm probably a poor person to give advice, because I mean, I think if anybody's starting out, I would say that the thing that I will focus it on a regret, because, you know, here I am close to 50, where I feel that I'm finally starting to do what my passion was when I was 18.
Mm.
So I would say to people that are looking to do something, like, go out and do what you're passionate about. Go out and do it while while you're young, where perhaps you don't have the responsibility of a family to take care of, or a mortgage, and do what you're really passionate about, and do it 100%. I feel very lucky, because I get to do it now. You know, my wife works in the military. I've got a good job that, you know, helps take care of myself, but my free time is just pushing my passion. And I think about, well, what if you had done that for the last 30 years? You know, you can drive yourself crazy thinking about the what ifs, but yeah, just do what you're passionate about, and I feel that the other opportunities will open up for you.
With your passion, do you have a goal, an overarching goal, something that you'd like to see happen with one of the films that you're making or with your show?
Yeah, I think that the real goal for me, and in a lot of ways I have it, um, but for me, like, creating some content that people really enjoy makes me happy. So if I have the opportunity to do that, you know, wake up every day and create something that I'm passionate about, and people watch it or enjoy it, then that's a good day. Then, you know, then I've won. So that's what I try to do every single day.
Is there anything on the horizon that's coming up?
Well, right now we're essentially just working in kind of low budget television, so I'm just excited about that. We've done, you know, one show called Halifax Homicide, which actually is kind of like a mini documentary about, you know, crimes that took place in the city. We're now shooting a show called Real Wrestling. You know, growing up, professional wrestling was something that, you know, really enjoyed, and now I get to, you know, shoot that. And I've got a podcast where a friend of mine, we basically break down our favorite martial arts films. So growing up, I was a huge fan of all those martial arts films, and now we just rewatch and discuss those movies. So yeah, it's very satisfying when you can pick and choose what you want to do with your spare time. So I would encourage others to do the same.
Chad, is there anything that people may not understand about you or the work that you're accomplishing, that if they understood this, they would have a better appreciation of the work that you're bringing to the table?
No, I think I'm pretty simple. I'm not, I'm like a slinky, right? Hey, that's a lot of fun, but it's not very
Yeah.
complicated. I just enjoy, I'm very social. I like spending time with people. I like telling stories. I like listening to stories. I like spending time with friends and family, and I love serving my community. So yeah, those are all just very
Simple things.
Simple things. Simple Jack.
Is there, Chad, in a couple of questions I have for you remaining, is there any
Sure.
adversity that you have faced where that motivates you in your work, but you also use this adversity and you could use this adversity to encourage other people with the adversity that they face in their work or in their life?
The biggest adversity that I think I've ever faced, it's always me. It's always been
Mm,
me. It's always been fearful of something that might happen. Fearful of, oh, what if I do this, or this person might know, or I might not be able to do this. And I say this not as a like a boastful thing, but anytime I've gone out to actually do something with like full intent, I've succeeded at it.
mm,
Whenever I half-heartedly or kind of maybe dip my toes in and, oh, I'll just test, I'm not really doing this, I'm just kind of having fun. um, that's, I think, when you fail. And suddenly when you think about all the things that possibly can happen that rarely ever do happen, anytime that I've ever been stopped from something, it's always been me.
It's interesting because sometimes we look at it, if someone says, well, you can do whatever, you can do anything. And then people think it's anything. But really, if the demarker or the difference is the thing that you want to do, that thing that you really
Mm.
want to do, go do that thing, right? You can
Yeah.
do that thing if you really try. Don't put your feet and dive right into it, with being responsible, right? You're not throwing
Mhm.
all your chips in necessarily, but having a dabble at it and seeing if this particular thing is for you. And I think you're right. If people do the thing that's on their mind, in their heart to do, I think they'll find success in it, however that comes.
But I think that, I'm watching you, and you're in South Korea right now, which is amazing to me that, we're having a conversation. We've never met before. And you're like, I'm going to start this podcast where I'm going to speak to people about work, and you're doing it. And when if you can kind of bend your parameters a little bit, because like, sometimes you see people that are delusional where sometimes on that fake show, it's a fake show, American Idol, where they're like, they have people on there who clearly can't sing,
Mm,
but they're like, I want to be the greatest singer. I can't sing, but I have a couple of 100,000 views on my music videos, despite the fact that I cannot sing. So I think if you kind of define success in
mhm.
that way, where I'm like, okay, I'm Chad Lindsay, I'm not trying to be a great singer, but maybe I'm entertaining, or maybe I'm funny, or maybe there's something in the songs and the music videos that I make that connects with people, that gets them to watch it and share it, then you can kind of define your success that way. Because I'll never be able to actually carry a tune,
Yeah.
but I can make all the music videos I like that that people seem to enjoy. So that is successful to me.
I agree wholeheartedly. That idea of success, it varies. It's not some dictionary definition that means equates to millions of dollars and you're at the top of the game.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I mean, you're very successful in the fact that, like, you just started this off and you're calling people up and everyone's saying yes to you. So you're obviously doing something right in the way that you're approaching this.
It's funny. I mean, you have a podcast too, and the idea people say, well, if you get past 5 episodes, it's almost like starting your own business. If you get past 5 years, you're doing well. I'm like, and it's not to boast. I think you're 120, the 120th episode in 7, 8 months or something, and it's just doing it, right? Doing it
Yeah.
each, and I've scaled it down to doing one a week because I feel like I can do better that way. And at one point I had 6 or 7. I'm like, what am I doing? But if
Yeah.
whatever it is someone wants to do, just do it, just try it. And I was just as scared as you were when you first went live to go
Yeah.
live. And even sometimes I'm like, okay, can I do this? But I really enjoy doing this particular thing. And there's lots of people out there, as I said in the beginning, who are not doing something that they want to do, or they haven't defined what it is they want to do, and they're feeling depressed, they're feeling down, they're feeling left out of society. But get out there, do something. Whatever it may not be, something on a video, it may not be behind a microphone, it may be
Right.
helping your local community council out, it may be getting
Mhm.
involved in a local boys and girls club, whatever it may be. Just get out there and do those things, and you're going to find yourself connected to this world, not superficially like on some social media platform.
Yeah, I agree. Oh man, we could have been friends all these years when you
Well,
were
that's,
living
I
in
like, how
Sackville.
did I
I
miss
like the
this
way you
guy?
think. I like the way you think.
Well, no, I mean, I think we were indirectly with your brother. I mentioned your brother's one of the greatest guys I know. Just growing up in high school, he just was, and I wasn't sure if you were brothers or not. But knowing that you are, then I can see that connection. How can people get in contact with you, Chad?
Oh, you can go on Facebook or YouTube and just type in Sackville.Live and I will come up.
One final question, Chad, and that is, why do you work?
Oh, I should have seen this question coming. I don't know. I feel that I work in from the standpoint that it's a for me it's a means to an end. I do enjoy the work that I do day to day, but it gives me the opportunity to live my passion. And if my passion fails, I'm not financially tied to it. So my passions can fail all day long, but I still go to work every day and enjoy it. If I'm going to spend 8 hours a day at a place, I should really enjoy it. And luckily, I do very, very much.
I was just thinking, my dear wife, if my passion starts costing a lot of money, my dear wife slash the accountant will be very upset.
I paid $3,500 for a Saki costume just because I missed him. He's in storage right now. So
You bring it out on a Friday night, honey. I still use it.
ta-da.
It's tough. Our passion sometimes, we have checks and balances, which are good. It keeps us
Yes.
on an even keel. Chad Lindsay, writer, director, producer, and filmmaker. Check him out, Sackville.Live. Check him out, find him on Facebook. I appreciate the time you've given me, and I appreciate the work that you do.
Thank you. And likewise.
I'm BrianVee. Thank you to Chad Lindsay. Check him out. He will have some things coming up in the future, I'm sure. Check him out on Sackville.Live. You can get him on YouTube or on Facebook. Check me out on any sort of podcast host, Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, any of those. You can download any episode, including this one on here on YouTube. You can subscribe, like, comment, share. Hit the notification button. If you or you know someone who would be a good guest, if you'd like to be on, email me at whyweworkbrianv@gmail.com. whyweworkbrianv@gmail.com. I'm BrianVee, and this is Why We Work.